Prime Minister Modi is all set to embark on his first bilateral visit of his third term in office. Modi will visit India's ally Vladimir Putin Russia on the 8th of July in a one-day visit that will be keenly viewed and analyzed in the West. This even as Prime Minister Modi snubs China-led bloc or SCO meeting in Astana this week, which Xi Jinping will attend in person. So what can we expect from PM Modi's Russia visit? Can PM Modi play the role of a global peacemaker and find a solution for the war in Ukraine? And how are India and Russia boosting their strategic and defense cooperation? Kremlin official and presidential aide Yuri Ushakov said, and I quote, "I can confirm that we are preparing for a visit by the Prime Minister of India." According to reports, India and Russia will sign a key pact for the S400, the world's deadliest air defense system, which India has deployed to guard the LAC against Chinese J-20s and the Western Front against Pakistan. Visit comes after Prime Minister Modi's visit to Italy for the multinational G7 summit, and days after Biden sent his US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to India, promising renewed partnership in critical and emerging technologies. Still, Indian Prime Minister Modi is going ahead with the Russia visit, while observers keenly watch whether Modi can convince Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Sputnik News confirmed on the 30th of June that an agreement on the much-awaited S400 air defense system has been sealed between India and Russia. Maintenance, repair and manufacturing of parts for the S400 is all set to begin in India under a joint partnership between Almaz Ante, the Russian state-owned enterprise, and an undisclosed Indian firm. The deal also involves technology transfer, helping India gain much welcome expertise in leading air defense systems. The partners are expected to set up 2 support centers and start manufacturing in India by 2028, giving a major boost to the Make in India campaign. This would also help India have a domestic supply chain and not depend on imports in case of any two-front war. Russia and India have held talks with respect to the S400 maintenance and parts since 2019. The latest development underlines a renewed focus in bilateral defense partnership, as Russia's role in India's defense exports have slipped from over 60% in 2010 to nearly 36% in the previous 5 years. The deliveries of the remaining 2 S400 missile systems and batteries to India will be completed by the end of next year, while 3 units of the long-range missile systems have already been deployed by the Indian military along the borders with Pakistan and China. S400 allows India to cover 80% of Pakistan's aerial territory and a deep cover inside occupied Tibet to counter Chinese PLA J-20s and other fighter jets. The $5.43 billion contract was finalized during Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to India. Remember, New Delhi was determined to proceed with the pact despite a looming fear of friction between India and US. The S-400 deal had been agreed amidst US threat of sanctions under the Countering American Adversaries Through Sanctions Act or CAATSA, which authorizes US administration to impose sanctions on countries purchasing major defense hardware from Russia. India still went ahead with the S-400 deal, and USA was forced to accept the realities of the historic India-Russia partnership. The Indian Air Force believes that there is no alternative system capable of serving its long-range air defense requirements from the standpoint of either capabilities or cost. The S-400 has the capacity of intercepting air attacks from a distance of 2 kilometers to 400 kilometers. It can identify targets at even larger distances and engage 6 targets simultaneously. S-400 would also be able to eliminate Chinese J-20s or Pakistani JF-17s even before they can come within range of India's borders. The ability of the S-400 to contain an adversary's air operations within their own airspace is unmatched, even by typical Western systems like THAAD. This will also be Prime Minister Modi's first visit to Russia after the start of the war in Ukraine. So what else is on the agenda? The visit to Moscow follows Modi's decision to cancel travel plans to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or SCO Council meeting to be held in Astana, Kazakhstan on the 3rd and 4th of July, which will have Xi Jinping present in person. Over the past couple of years, India has also ramped up purchases of discounted Russian crude oil to sustain its booming economy and energy needs. So defense ties and crude oil trade are expected to be important point of discussions between PM Modi and Putin. But the visit will also enable India's forays into the Arctic Ocean region, and its vast untapped amounts of natural resources, which has emerged to be a significant geopolitical theater in recent years. India needs to counter the Chinese foothold in this region and grab a bigger share of mineral resources and access the northern sea route shipping lanes. The reloss agreement will give India access to Russian military logistics in this region. We have done a detailed report on this and you can check it out. The reloss agreement will enable Indian Navy and Indian Air Force to access Russian military bases as well as refuel and resupply to maintain a military presence in the Arctic region. In return, India will back Russian forays in the Indian Ocean region, especially after Moscow set up a naval base in Sudan. Russia is eyeing a pact to use Indian ports for logistical support, saying that the pact is just a few signatures away. The trade deficit with Russia is also another area of focus. This after India's trade deficit with Russia ballooned to $57.18 billion in FY24, up 33% annually on the back of rising crude oil imports. This is a result of India-Russia bilateral trade jumping to historic highs, though payments issue does remain a headache given the sanctions imposed on Russia by the West. So is Modi's visit to Moscow also intended to counter Russia's growing alliance with China? Now, while it's true that Russia and China have become more aligned due to tensions with the West, historically, Russia and China have their own issues and differences. Kremlin has been worried about increased Chinese influence in Central Asia, a region Moscow considers as its own sphere of influence. Putin's recent visits to North Korea and Vietnam also showed Russia values other regional allies apart from China. India and Russia have had a historic and strategic mutually beneficial partnership for decades, one which both Modi and Putin are keen not just to preserve but take to the next level. The big question is, having told Putin in 2020 that this is not the era for war, can Prime Minister Modi convince Moscow and NATO to start peace negotiations? Leave a comment, hit the like button and subscribe to Inconnect News.